All right. So now that we've done the preliminary work of entering the theater, seeing the space, now that you've watched that video, you can see that the theater itself gives you a lot of information about what kind of play is about to happen. Even the set, if the set's there, no curtain, you can see kind of what world we're living in. The program gives you a lot of information, and now the play starts. So there's two things that we got to do while we're watching the play at the same time. One, we have to, enjoy the performance, right? Empathize with the characters, participate in it, hopefully get involved with the story, and kind of attach ourselves to the protagonist or maybe the antagonist. You never know. And then the second thing is we have to kind of distance ourselves a little bit and watch the performance to see if the kind of the sets, the costume, the light, the actors, all those different elements work with telling the story and telling it well. If they're all in the same story. So that's where we get a little bit tricky sometimes, is that either the actors are in a different play, or they're not telling the story well, they're acting rather than embodying the characters. We'll get into that in a bit. So while we're participating in the play, there's still three central values. They are the plot, when we're watching it and trying to ascertain what's happening for analysis. The plot, which is what happens in the play. Remember that. The plot is what happens in the play. Romeo and Juliet, they fall in love, they do all these different things, he gets banished, and then basically they come up with a plot for her to look like she's dead, and then he finds her, thinks she's dead, kills himself, then she finds him, kills himself, right? The plot is what happens. Very important to see if they do that. If you don't understand what happened at the end of the play, if you don't understand what just happened, then they didn't do a good job, right? So, but we'll analyze that. The second central value is character. That comes from the actors. It's a performing art, and so the actors are the most important thing when you're watching a play. So are the characters consistent? Do they tell the story well? Can you hear them? Do you understand what they're saying? And then finally, the idea at the end, when the play's over and you've seen it, and hopefully the story is being told well, then you say, why is this play happening? The idea. Why did they tell this story? Christmas Carol is hopefully at the end of that play you say, I don't need to be as selfish maybe as I am. I need to restructure my life and see how I can help people. There are people that are less fortunate than I am. At the end of Romeo and Juliet, it's grudges and love and all these different things. Why are we telling this story? So the story is the most important aspect in theater. If the performance doesn't make sense, it's not good. Plays are compelling because they tell stories. We follow and respond to the story of the play. Again, the plot. What happened? Stories are made up of the incidents that go from event to event until the play ends. Now, Romeo and Juliet has a lot of active events, right? Fights, love, moments of great enjoyment and great sadness and sorrow, tragedy. Red is a little more subtle when you read Red, right? So event to event in Red is a little bit not quite as dynamic and exciting from an active point of view. It's about talking and them learning from each other. It's still from event to event. So we understand the characters and ideas of the play through the story it tells. If production fails to tell the story, nothing else matters. That's the most important thing. So when you're watching and you're looking and understanding if they told the story well, you must ask, what is the story? Again, if you don't know that, by the end, they didn't do a good job. Was it clear? Or did you understand a lot of the story, but some of the other was a little bit muddy? Did the actors tell the story well, or were they in a different play? And did the costume, sets, lights, and sound help tell the story, or was some of it muddy? A second part are the characters. Characters and performance are created by the actors based on the characters in the written play. These characters are created by the actors' choices, meaning when they learn their lines and are engaged in the moment in the rehearsal process, but also on stage during performance. How do they decide to do the things the playwright has told them to do? Choices are the vocal and physical traits used by the actors for their unique performances. What the actor does on stage, they use their voice and their bodies. You must ask when you're watching them at the end and while you're watching it, how does the actor say the words? How does the actor react to the words and actions of others? Are they listening? how do they stand, right? So this is character. How do they stand? How do they move? How do they wear their costumes? How do they create rhythm? We all talk a little bit differently. We all move a little bit differently. Are they connected to the story, or are they just acting? So what I want you to do in the next videos are watch the differences in performances and the actors' choices. So we'll have the same scenes from Shakespeare here, done by different actors, and you'll see their choices and how those tell the story differently. And you get to decide if you think they did a good job or if one was more clear than